y'all. It's the NFT Roundtable, a podcast produced by Black NFT Art. It is Friday, April 30th, 2021, and today I'm talking with Alan Hena, who is a technology and cryptocurrency consultant. Welcome, Alan. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So tell us about your background and how you got into crypto.
Yeah, so, I heard about Bitcoin some time ago, probably in like 2012, and it never clicked for me. But I've always been into the tech space. I'm a computer engineering major. I've been in software development, engineering, architecture, enterprise architecture. I've just been in tech pretty much my entire career. So, maybe 18 years at this point, at least. So, as far as getting into crypto, it's just a progression. It's a natural progression, if I'm being completely honest. It's like crypto's tech, it's money, and it's business. Tech and money is pretty easy to understand. And I think there were other things, like you go down the path of what is money, how does our money work? Oh, well, crypto is an answer to that. And then you understand the tech aspect of it. So if you're like an engineering major or software person, it's very easy to like get into it. At least that's what I thought.
Yeah. I'd say, I don't know. For me, I don't think it was that easy because I'm an engineering manager at MailChimp. And I still feel like the vast majority of software engineers that I know don't even really understand blockchain.
Well, for them, I'm guessing for those that don't understand it, they look at it. You really just have to think of the blockchain as a database. And instead of like your SQL Server or your Oracle or your MySQL, whatever, MongoDB, whatever centralized database you're using, the database is basically copied to a bunch of different other computers. You can call them nodes or validators, right? So because everyone has the same copy of something, it makes it infinitely more difficult, the more people to have the same copy, for someone to have corrupted records or inaccurate records, right? Or someone to like what's called double spend, right? So if you control what entries go into the database, you can control what gets written, and you could like double spend your money, right? So that's essentially what crypto is solving, is a double spend problem for simple transactions. And then when you have networks like Ethereum that come along, have smart contracts, so then you're presenting complex transactions that get executed automatically by the same types of nodes and validators, and then they perform like a complex transaction versus like a simple peer-to-peer. So think about it like peer-to-peer is like I give you some money, right? So boom, boom. But if I wanted to buy, this is super simplified, but if I wanted to buy a house from you, that's something you would need like a bunch of smart contracts for, because the transaction is more complicated, more complex.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and break this down a little bit more for our listeners who may not understand a lot of what you just said. So starting with blockchain, how would you explain that to someone who has like no software technical knowledge whatsoever?
Yeah, I would say it's basically a way for everyone to have a copy of the records. Like, so you have a copy of everyone's bank account. That's how I would say. So everyone can have a copy of everyone's bank account, but you don't know whose bank account it is. There are things you can do to figure out whose bank account it is, but generally speaking, you don't know.
Okay, so it's this ledger of transactions that's visible to everyone,
and everyone has a copy of everyone's bank accounts. So everyone's constantly checking to make sure that everyone has the same copy at the same time. So it's like if there's a 100 or 1,000 people, everyone has the same copy of everyone's bank accounts, and everyone just is constantly checking just to make sure, like, you got it, I got it. And then that's how everyone has the same copy. So if I try to change something, they're like, now hold up. What's going on with you? Because we got this, you got that sort of thing.
Right. So is that where miners come into play? Are they the ones that are validating these copies?
So in the proof of work scenario, what they're doing is they're basically solving a puzzle so they can win the right to write the next record to the blockchain, essentially. So they're trying to figure out a puzzle, and that's where you get proof of work. So they're trying to figure out this puzzle, and the first one to figure out this puzzle, which is basically just trial and error. Like, imagine this very complex puzzle, and there's like, you just need this one piece. And once you get that piece, then you essentially win. And since you win, you get the right to add the next record. You get to put the next record, which everyone has to copy from you to get updated, right? So that's why if you talk about blockchains, they say that you need so many confirmations because everyone's confirming, like, I got it. And then because you won that, because you won that contest, like, to sort of figure out the puzzle first, you get like rewarded in the coin of that network. So with Bitcoin, you get Bitcoin. Ethereum, you get Ethereum. There's some nuances to that, but that's the general thought process.
Okay, so just to review again, so blockchain is like, it's this visible ledger that everybody can see. When someone does a transaction on the blockchain, there are these miners that compete for the right to be able to actually
write the next record
the transaction, right? And then there's after that there's a sequence of like people validating that transaction as well. Okay, and who are the people that are validating?
So those are the, like, all the different nodes. They're the ones that are recording everything. So they're recording the actual, So the miners.
And nodes means computers.
Yeah, nodes always mean computers. I mean, technically miners.
So these are computers that are all
technically miners are computers too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So, but they're not the same.
Not the same.
Right?
No.
Like.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so then break down how, so blockchain is like this technology, but then you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, you have these different tokens that are all built using blockchain. So what are some of the differences between these tokens that are built using blockchain?
They do different things. Like Bitcoin is super simple. It's like it can only do one thing. It can only do peer-to-peer transfers, essentially. There are going to be other people that will argue and say it has smart contracts. It doesn't. It's very basic. They've really handcuffed it to only do one thing. And then that same thing for like Litecoin. Like Monero's like privacy, so they like hide your transaction and you can hide your balances and things like that. When you get into things like Ethereum and Cardano and Polkadot and Cosmos, these are more like, let's say complex, but they're more, they're networks and blockchains with more functionality. So they have like smart contracts, they'll let you create tokens, they have even something called like governance where you get to vote on certain decisions. So they have this whole sort of like other set of things you can do. So that's why, for instance,
they have utility.
They have, I call them capabilities, right? So for instance, you can create, you can use smart contracts to create things like NFTs, right? You can use smart contracts to create things like tokens, different sort of like utility tokens, like say Chainlink or Aave, which is a DeFi protocol. So you can build. So other networks let you build very far easily. There's better like tools and things like that where developers can build on top of it.
Gotcha. So it's not just a store of value the way Bitcoin is.
Well, no,
they're actually build tools.
They're all stores of value though. So that's another like debating point. There are people who tell you, well, if Bitcoin's a store of value, well, so is any network. Why is Bitcoin a store of value, but if say Ethereum isn't or Litecoin isn't, or any network can be a store of value.
Right.
Yeah.
But they also have these additional.
Exactly. Right. So it's kind of like store of value. And then if there's a network that just makes it easy to move value around, then it functions as a medium of exchange. And then if you price things in the network, in the coin of that network, that's something called unit of account. So these are like properties of money. So if you put blockchain to the side and crypto to the side, if you think about, say, the US dollar, right? So the US dollar, in theory, is supposed to be, the US dollar is a currency and it's not backed by anything. But generally, money has three properties. You have a store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account, and then they're supposed to be fungible. So what fungible means is that in kind, you can change one unit of one coin for another. So if I give you $1, you can give me another dollar, and it's the same thing, right? They're fungible, they're exchangeable with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm guessing that you invest in crypto.
Yeah.
What do you think about what do you think is the future of crypto and like the implications of crypto for society? Because a lot of people that I know, for example, just think it's just going to fall apart one day and like everyone's going to lose their money.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, you got to talk about what is money, right? Why is crypto any less money than the US dollar or wherever you are, your local money? And the difference is that all money has value because people agree it has a value, right? So if you look at the dollar, if we didn't agree that it has the same value, then it wouldn't have the value. And that's why, for instance, because they keep printing more dollars, it actually costs more to buy the same thing because the dollar, for instance, is being diluted. I think where crypto is going is that we'll get like these sort of alternative economic systems, like as we continue to build up more on networks where you can actually build on, like say Ethereum, because you can build on Ethereum, we're going to get a lot of economic activity there. And there will be more and more activity there. And then over time, we'll use those networks more and more. While the dollar and other like government currencies, because they don't know how to manage anything, and that's not an opinion, it's a literal fact at this point. Like they print money like crazy. They give money to certain people who get the advantage of that money or the advantages of cheap interest rates. And it creates it creates a lot of big problems. It creates massive wealth disparity. So at least with crypto, the benefits you get is the transparency of monetary policy as compared to governments, which have a very opaque and random monetary policy where it's really governed by a few people. So that's the difference. So I don't see government money lasting, at least through our lifetimes, because it's just really poorly managed. Some other people think it's going to fall apart. They're like, oh, well, it goes down in the dollar. Yeah, but if you're measuring in the dollar, sure, but the network doesn't die. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Bitcoin can go up or down, Ethereum can go up or down, all these networks, but that's if you're measuring in like USD price. Meanwhile, they're printing money like crazy, and people think that dollar is stable. Like that doesn't make any sense. You're paying more money for everything today than you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Those are the facts. Yeah.
So what are for people who are interested in investing in crypto, like what are some of the tokens that you think people should look into outside of just Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would tell people to invest way more time before they invest money. I don't like telling people what to buy. I like telling people once you put in your time, stop being lazy. I'm just going to be blunt. Like put in your time to understand what you're putting your money into, right? So once you put in your time and you understand crypto and you understand like what it can do and start thinking for yourself and constantly asking questions, I think you'll end up in a good place. I tell people if you're talking about investment, you want to invest in things that you can build with. If you can't build with a network or the coin of that network, if that network isn't building, it's probably useless. So I have a contrarian view that I personally think Bitcoin is like trash, but because you can't build with Bitcoin today. Some people will tell you that you're going to be able to build with Bitcoin in the future, but I see no evidence of that being possible today. So that's but other people could have different opinion. There are a lot of other people that think Bitcoin is like the best thing on earth. So that's fine. But personally, I think if you put in more time and you focus on coins you can build an economy with, economic activity with, you'll end up in a good place.
And do you think there can be, apparently there's something like 10,000 or more tokens right now. Do you think that there can exist like I think there's not gonna be like one winner. That also is like something that doesn't make any sense, right? Because if you look like throughout history, we don't have just one language. We have a dominant language, but we don't have just one language. So language itself exchanges value, right? We're having this conversation, we're exchanging value. Just like when you have a transaction with somebody in a monetary aspect, you're exchanging value, right? So we don't just have one language.
all value is driven by a community of people agreeing that something has value. So this entire idea that there's going to be one winner is also problematic and really short-sighted, and usually propagated by people who have very strong financial interests for like one coin. So they're like, yeah, it's like Bitcoin's going to be the only money. No, it's not. Ethereum is going to be the only money. No, it's not. That doesn't make any sense, because communities of people always turn up, and communities are not all ever going to have the same interests. So thus communities can never all have the same value systems. Like, it just doesn't make any sense if you think about it logically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you collect NFTs.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of artists and people in the NFT space have been getting criticized about their use of NFTs by people who say that NFTs are destroying the environment. So, first of all, is there truth to that?
There's no truth to it. It's BS.
Okay.
It's BS.
Why is it BS?
It's BS because, first of all, they're poorly framing the conversation. When you want to talk about destroying the earth, and it's not whataboutism, but if you want to talk about destroying the earth, if you look at effectively, here's an example. If anyone eats meat, they're actually destroying the earth, because documented wise, the most damaging thing to our environment is actually eating is the meat industry, meat agribusiness, right? So agribusiness in general, and specifically meat production, is the most harmful thing to our environment. So if you eat meat, that's definitely far more documented. As far as like specifically like NFTs, people don't understand that, like, the people who are saying this, they don't understand that, like, the blocks. So let me first position a few things. I would say probably about 95% of the NFTs are minted on Ethereum. Okay. Maybe the other 5% are on other networks like, say, Flow, Polygon, there's Tezos, there's Cardano, there's all those other networks are what are called staking, right? So they're not proof of work. Ethereum has like 90-something% of the NFTs. And because of that, it's proof, and it's proof of work. So there's two things that people need to know about Ethereum, is that Ethereum's already in the first step of moving off of proof of work to staking, right? So in 2 to 3 years, it's going to be the only, it's going to be the only one that you can do. Like, you can't do NFTs on Bitcoin. You can't do NFTs on Monero. You can't do NFTs on Litecoin. None of the proof of work chains can you do NFTs on right now. So Ethereum, which already has 95% of the NFTs, is the only one that really matters at the end of the day, because everything else is staking or not having NFTs, and it's moving to staking anyway. So in the next 2 to 3 years, you could say, yeah, so are we going to destroy the earth in the next 2 to 3 years? Obviously, that's not going to happen. Also, whether there are 1 million NFTs minted or 0 NFTs minted, the Ethereum blockchain is going to continue running. Like, it's not like people mint NFTs and then all of a sudden now there's like, the earth is getting destroyed more. Like, it's a bus coming every 15 seconds, like, imagine you're the NFT. And then you got to get on a bus. And then every 15 seconds, which is for every 15 seconds, there's a block on Ethereum. So every 15 seconds, there's a bus that shows up. Whether or not you get on that bus, that block is coming. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's another bus coming. So, and then when you get on the bus, it doesn't change the fact that that bus is going to be full by the time it gets to the end of the line, right? So people have this idea that, like, NFTs being minted creates some sort of like delta, and that it impacts it. It does not. Right. So that's one thing.
So what about the argument that that NFTs, the use of NFTs or the increasing adoption of NFTs is leading to increased use of Ethereum, and that is going to
all it does is just increase the gas cost. Right, it increases. So there's each block has a certain amount of gas that it can essentially. There's a block limit, right? And you're essentially bidding for the right to get into the next block. That's why gas gets really high, because it gets more and more expensive, right? So it's not like the blocks are getting, once again, they're not getting bigger because of the fact that more NFTs are being created, right? So once again, if there are 0 NFTs minted or 1 million, it doesn't matter. The blocks have a certain size. You pay, you basically auction to get into the block. It's going to happen anyway. Like the blocks are coming, whether it doesn't matter. Like NFTs are not changing the functional outcome of the blockchain, right? So does that make sense?
And does the amount of people buying or selling Ethereum influence that at all?
No, because this is the thing. Most of them would be running on centralized exchanges anyway, right? And everything. So if you have an issue with centralized exchanges, or even a decentralized exchange, all these, it's still the block. Like everything is all about the block. The base unit is the block. So like the block is coming, whether like it's happening every 15 seconds. It doesn't matter. Whatever goes into the block, whether it's NFT transactions or DeFi transactions or just moving stuff around transactions are happening. And only so many transactions can really go into a block because there's a limit on that block. And it's just going to keep going, right? The other issue that people don't consider is that if you talk about like what are blockchains actually replacing, well, look at the current financial structure. Look at Wells Fargo, look at Chase, look at any large financial institutions. They have these buildings. They have people there are thousands of people that go into those buildings. So what is their impact to the environment, right? Because blockchains are actually very efficient for transactions. If we're using, so imagine, let's just take like, for instance, a bank. What do? They're a ledger. Banks are literally a ledger. They track transactions, right? So what is their impact to the environment? All their buildings all over the world, the hundreds of thousands of people for the large institutions, they go to and from every day with their cars, right? They go in there, they cause waste. The buildings cause waste. Like if we're going to have a comparison about impact to the environment, let's look at that sort of trade-off with like, all right, here's a company that is essentially a ledger for transactions. Here's another one, a network that's a ledger for transactions. And let's look at the power usage for both. I am 100% sure that buildings and hundreds of thousands of people driving to and from work and all the costs, I mean, not the cost, but the impact of every, like, I saw a study even before this whole NFT thing talking about like what the impact was of just the skyscrapers to the environment. And it's just like absolutely terrible. Right. Because and that's just with the building just being there and being kept on running, all that stuff. Right. That doesn't even factor the people coming to and from with their cars or any other transportation that they take. So you have to like put these things on a proper sort of playing field. And then you also have to look at like even the like NFT transactions specifically are like a fraction of all the transactions on, say, like Ethereum. They're not like even 50%. I think I saw like 10 to 12% of the transactions, if that, right? So it's like realistically, what are you shaming people for? I think you're just shaming people because like you're probably like uninformed of like how everything works. If I told you a bus was coming every 15 seconds, you know, then like what exactly, how is the NFT getting on the bus really changing anything? It's like still going to go. And that bus is going to be full whether you get on it or not. Right. And then the other thing about there are some chains that'll be like, oh, we're clean NFTs. That's also like misleading because they're still using power. Right. So the whole clean NFT thing doesn't even make sense because they're still using power. Are they using less power than a proof of work chain? 100% they are. But they're still using some amount of power. Right. So it's just like everyone is just trying to turn it into this like marketing gimmick. I think like 99% of people are uninformed on this because they don't know how crypto works. And they saw some headline at the New York Times or somewhere that say NFTs are destroying the environment. But objectively, they are not. And I think some people like have tried to do some calculations, but they clearly like when you look at these calculations, it's like you clearly don't understand like anything about power consumption, about what percentage of a transaction NFTs are. And regardless, it doesn't matter that like it's not like, oh, here's an NFT, now the power usage is this. The power usage is just like boom. Because it's just the blocks are going to get full. They're getting full every time.
So it seems like what I'm hearing, just to summarize, is that one, the if there's anything that's using energy, it's not necessarily the NFTs. It's the Ethereum transactions
Right.
that are going to happen regardless of whether or not someone is buying an NFT. But even then, if you look at the energy consumption of Ethereum, it's just really minor in comparison to all the other
Right.
ways in which we use energy and impact the environment. And so it's not fair to harass
Exactly.
artists. It would be the equivalent of harassing every person that eats meat.
Exactly. And I've made that point to people before. I'm like, I've been in these clubhouse rooms and like, they're like, these people, they're like, I'm like, do you eat meat? Yes, I do. All right. At that point, I just want to tell them to cuss at them, because it's like, you're doing far more harm eating. So for the record, like, I stopped eating meat specifically because once I learned the impact of meat to the environment, I stopped. And I haven't had meat in 5 years, right? So, like, there's a lot.
I've tried a few
No,
times.
and it's the thing. I'm not judging people who are eating meat, but what I'm saying is like, it's the person eating meat is doing far more damage to the environment, right, than the person that's minting an NFT. In fact, I'm gonna have to put that tweet out. I'm gonna put that one.
And the person minting the NFT is also engaging in a potentially life-changing experience or technology as well.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add is, if you look at like, and this isn't even me pointing it out, this is actually people from the traditional art world. They're like, well, if you want to look at how the art world works today and what we do for what they put out, like all the chemicals that go into the paints, all the trees that are destroyed for their canvases and their the frames, like the entire art market, like the people in traditional art world are like, oh, well, it's clear that like we've had our own environmental concerns here, and no one really raised a stink about it before. Like, I'm sure some people said something, but it wasn't like people on Twitter, you know, like someone posted a picture, maybe some painting they just did. You don't see people on there like, I can't believe you used paint. Oh, a tree had to be killed for that frame, or to make that canvas, some factory had to be like, how, like, what is this whole conversation that we're having? Like, nothing is properly like compared. And people will say it's whataboutism, but I'm like, yeah, but we need to talk about the facts, because you were quiet about all this other stuff. But now the most like minor thing, and to me it's a nothing thing, but like the most smallest thing, you're like trying to blow it up.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been looking into this a lot. After this past weekend, and been reading and learning a lot, and I've come to the same conclusion. But I think that narrative is really, it's like taking on this whole life of its own. And so now it's like outside of the NFT space, a lot of people have this negative perception.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like anything like that. You just have to know that there's a lot of people that have incentives to like stop something like this. And there's a lot of people who just choose to be uninformed about a lot of topics. And I would, we just need to have more and more debates on it, so people that can understand like things that are properly framed, properly discussed. And really, I wouldn't even be this fired up about it if it wasn't that artists were getting attacked, like they're like attacked on Instagram, attacked on Twitter from their clients. Like, oh, you're just trying. Like, it just shows like how uninformed people are. And anyone listening to this, I don't feel bad for what I'm saying. Like, if you still are not convinced, you're very uninformed. Like, that's just how I feel about it.
Okay, cool. So what do you see? What do you see for the future of NFTs?
I think NFTs are going to continue to like grow and get people like into the crypto space in a way that they're not necessarily focused on the traditional crypto ethos of like all the monetary aspects, like take over the banks and disrupt that whole world, which is still good. But I think when you get another demographic in that's not necessarily their focus, and they're more tied to like the traditional physical world, and they're just, I'm very happy about that demographic coming in, and we'll get some very interesting creative people, and the technology enables some really interesting things to happen. So I just expect a lot more experimentation, a lot more products, a lot more platforms that open up, and it's going to really change the way that we like consume and engage on not just entertainment, but like art, media. It's going to fundamentally change everything. It's like, in like 10 years, we're going to look back and be like, whoa, like these NFTs are whack.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
like what's coming is just going to be like completely like way cooler. Not and the great thing about art and anything creative is that time is your friend. So even the NFTs being created today, if that artist sticks around for 5 years, 10 years, all their work is going to be valuable, because like consistency always pays off in this space, especially in crypto. Like if you're just around and you just survive, just being a survivor, you don't even have to thrive. Just surviving 5 years in crypto is just going to get you a lot of fans, because people love consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like the crypto markets love it too.
Yeah. I mean, look at Dogecoin. Like, it's literally done nothing. It's just hung around, and it's like continues to like. I'm not a fan of Dogecoin, but I respect the meme. I respect the culture, because it's just like people just buy it because it's been around. Like, it's one of the oldest cryptocurrencies, even though it's had literally zero improvements.
So a lot of artists are buying ETH or like trading ETH for the first time ever, right? They never really engaged crypto, and now they're in it. Like, what are some of the ways in which they can actually like leverage the crypto that they're earning beyond just like paying some bills?
Yeah. Well, I think a really cool way, and it's a little bit more complicated, and probably if you're not familiar with crypto, is like all the DeFi stuff. Like, you can do a lot of different things with DeFi. So outside of like, you make a piece of work.
Can you define DeFi?
Yeah, so DeFi is decentralized finance, and essentially what it is, it's like financial products, engineering, and services driven by smart contracts. And these smart contracts are basically like replacing like things that people would otherwise do as trusted intermediaries. So a lot of functions that, say, banks perform, like, you can just put into a smart contract. And because you don't have the overhead of the bank, with all the people that go to all the buildings that produce all the actual waste, those sort of transactions, smart contracts actually are able to like replace that function for, say, a bank. And it's very nascent and early in this space, but you can invest in some DeFi protocols. One thing you could potentially do is like borrow from yourself through what's called like over collateralization, like borrowing. So you could like deposit one Ethereum, borrow against it, say like 50% loan to value. So let's just quickly, like, I don't know, like let's say like Ethereum right now is like $2,500, right? So you could deposit one Ethereum into, say, Aave, right? And if you're long Ethereum and basically you're like, I don't want to sell it because I think it might go up, you could deposit it into Aave, right? And then you can borrow up to, I think for Ethereum it's 80%, but you don't want to do 80%. Let's just say you do 50% of it. So you can borrow $1,250 of that $2,500, and then you can take that and you pay your bills for the month. So you can borrow, say, USDC, and then send that to, in America, we would use Coinbase, to your Coinbase and to your personal bank account to pay your bills. And then you still have the long exposure to Ethereum. Say Ethereum.
But if you're borrowing it, don't you have to pay it back?
You do, but here's what could happen. One, you could pay it back, right? Maybe it's with your next sale, right? Because it's not like free money. Don't position like that. But here's what could happen. Let's say that you've determined that you're long for whatever reason, and you borrowed $1,250, and it was $2,500 when you put it in. Let's say that over the next 3 to 4 months, and you are paying an interest rate on that, right? And let's say it averages out to like 7 to 8%. So let's say over the next 4 to 5 months that $1,250 or whatever, I'm just going to rough math. Let's say it's $1,300. That's probably too much. Let's say it's $1,300 that you owe. But let's say Ethereum goes from $2,500 to, say, $4,000. That's $1,500. What you could then do in Aave is you could go into Aave and turn around and say, well, I'm going to repay that now $1,300 with the increase in the Ethereum price in USD. So you're basically coming out so you sort of like borrow. When I say you're long, it's like you're making a bet that Ethereum is going to go up in the future, and then you repay that loan to yourself, right?
Using the growth.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about
That's just
I
one
mean,
example.
it sounds very risky. Right? Like,
It is risky. It is risky. It is risky. They are working on like
Ethereum.
Yeah, now if it goes down, you
Yeah.
can get liquidated, and you'd have to pay like on Aave, I think it's like 15% of the amount that you're liquidated, and they just basically sell your collateral to cover the amount that you have to repay. That could happen if it goes below if you get too close to your loan to value ratio. There's something called a health factor. I know this sounds all complicated, but this is one of those things where if you just go play with it like a few times, you don't have to do it with big money. You'll figure it out, and it's like, oh, okay. And I think it's just another sort of mechanism that you can use, a tool that you can use as you sort of build out your presence in like this alternative economic space. It's definitely a thing. There's a reason that right now on Aave alone, there's like $12 billion locked up. And in DeFi,
And what is Aave?
Aave, AAVE, is one of the top DeFi protocols. You can do the same thing on Compound.finance. There's a MakerDAO. There's Cream.finance. There's a bunch of them. Anyone listening, if you just go to like DeFi Pulse, if you just go to Google and type in DeFi Pulse, that'll tell you like the top DeFi protocols on Ethereum. But the interesting thing is now you're seeing this same sort of action happening on other like what are called like Ethereum sidechains like Polygon, where the transactions are much cheaper. Aave's on Polygon, Curve Finance is on Polygon. So you're going to see a lot of build out on other networks, sidechains of Ethereum, things like Cosmos, Polkadot. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about, because I've been exploring DeFi.
Okay. I
have some friends that are walking me through it.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing, I'm forgetting what the term is for it. Let me pull it up. I'm going to be doing yield farming.
Yeah.
With Rally.
Okay. It's Rally token, right?
What do you think of the Rally token? What do you think about that token?
I think that's a social token, right?
Yes, it is a social token.
I think it's interesting. Do it. See what happens. I think I think the social token space is going to be like a thing for sure. Rally could have a place in that. Just do it. I don't know what their yield farming looks like, but it's a legitimate project.
Yeah.
They're not going to like steal your stuff.
Yeah. I have some trusted friends that recommended that, but I am going to try a few different things.
Yeah.
I'm also curious what you think about Polygon.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Polygon. Well, Uniswap is like one of the biggest drivers in this whole space of like of what's going on in DeFi. It is like the OG DeFi sort of like protocol. It's a decentralized exchange, so you can go there. You don't have to sign up for an account. You just connect your MetaMask wallet and you go swap. You can swap stuff. That's the beauty of the entire cryptocurrency space, especially things like Ethereum where you can actually do stuff. You go on there, you don't have to get permission. And when you use networks so long that you don't have to sign up or get permission, you just do whatever you want, all within the rules of the system. Don't get me wrong. It's permissionless. So it's, when I say permissionless, it's like these are the rules and everyone can see what the rules are. And you don't have to like go to some intermediary that's like, yeah, you can do this. Like, no, the rules say I can do it, so I can do it. So Uniswap is a big part of that. Uniswap actually on many days will rival Coinbase in like daily volume. So I think it's very exciting. Polygon I'm a fan of. It's like you can think of Ethereum as like the big city, right? It's like New York City, right? Manhattan. And Polygon is like, it's like a small town, but it's growing, right? So everything's going to be cheaper on Polygon. Just like when you go to a small town, when you go out to eat in a small town, it's going to be cheaper.
Right.
You go to New York,
but it's a good place
you go on
to
Fifth
get some
Avenue.
real estate.
You know, yeah, it's a good place to get some real estate. It's like
yeah.
So that's the way you think about it, right? So Polygon, there's a lot of stores opening up. You imagine like a store that just first starts out. You might have like a gas station, like a little restaurant, like a little diner, and like that's all they're gonna have. But now they're adding a grocery store, and they're adding like a library, and they're adding this, and they're a bank, and all this other stuff. So like more and more stuff is getting opened up there. So it's I'm not saying it now. There's also a security trade-off, so the cost of transactions are going to be lower. They're not as decentralized as Ethereum, but I don't. So a lot of times people like to play this most game. So they're like, when something is less or more or most, people always conflate it to basically mean that like if you take the other option, then it's horrible. So it's kind of like saying BMWs are nicer than Audis, and it's like I'll take either. You know, like in some aspects this is better, and like people like to play this game. They're like, oh, well, Bitcoin's the most, like it has the most this, and I'm like, yeah, but like just because something has the most doesn't mean that like everything else below it is like horrible. And most of your life you don't get the best of anything, and you're just fine. Like we live our lives just fine, you know. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I've been really exploring crypto a lot more recently. I had bought some Ethereum back in like 2017 when it was like $200, something like that, and then it shot up to like $1,500, and then it shot back down, and I got scared and I sold it. And now I regret, because I have 5 or 6.
Let me tell you,
I regret it so much.
Yeah.
But I also, the other thing is that I remember just like looking at all these tokens on Coinbase and feeling overwhelmed and feeling like there's no way that all of these can have value. Yeah. But now I understand that I was looking at it from I just want to put my money in and like make some money perspective. Yeah. As opposed to like, let me sit down and actually understand the functionality and the characteristics of these different tokens and what they do. And so now that is starting to make sense, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see why I would want to buy that or buy this or buy that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you gotta like, you got to be patient with this stuff. Like I tell everybody, unless you're going to like really, really be involved, just buy it and forget it. There hasn't been anyone who is like, if you get like a legit project or like a legit project to like invest in, and it's like has a good team, just stop looking at the price. Right. You're gonna get shaken out. That's literally what they want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're gonna get shaken out every time. Anyone who's been in this space for any amount of time, you're like, patience is your friend. Patience is always your friend. I know it's hard because we all been there.
Oh, it's so hard. Yeah. It's so hard. But, you know, after seeing the cycles over and over again and like getting more embedded in the space, it's just really starting to make sense now. So I mentioned yield farming. I realized we didn't define that. Can you define it? And like, what's the difference between loaning your crypto like to yourself versus loaning it to someone else or a company or something like that?
Because a smart contract is what secures that loan, right? So you don't have to trust like a third party to do anything. You know, like the smart contract has a code and it locks it up, and then when the other terms are met for it to unlock, that's all you need. You don't need to pay the big building that's got all the people in it that are running things. Yeah.
Okay, and then how would you define yield farming?
Usually it's just providing liquidity for some other task. So it's like people are like, give us your money, lock it up here, and then because you lock it up, we can run our chain, like our coin has value, and then they're going to reward you in that coin to provide liquidity. It's just another way of replacing what centralized exchanges do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And centralized exchanges meaning banks that loan their money out, or
right.
So if you
look at, here's an example. Like the reason you can go on Coinbase right now and exchange stuff is because Coinbase is providing that liquidity. Okay. So what yield farming does is it's asking you to get yield by providing liquidity to a specific protocol. So a token has some sort of purpose for some sort of like DeFi product normally. Sometimes it's for NFT products. So in order to make that liquid so people can like buy and sell it and speculate on it, they need someone to provide liquidity, and they give you incentives as giving you the same coin. So it's like you're providing a service to this sort of like sub network, just like the miners provide a service to the network by securing it, they all get rewarded by the same token, right? So when you secure the Ethereum network, you're getting rewarded in ETH. When you secure the Bitcoin network, you're getting rewarded in BTC. When you provide yield farming services, you're getting the token of that yield farm project. I mean, of that DeFi project or NFT project. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, cool. So I think the last thing I wanted to talk about was DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and I'm wondering what you think about these as vehicles for businesses. I see the value in it for like community building and operations, but I'm wondering, like, if you want to build a business, how do you trust
I think
DAO?
Yeah, DAOs are like we're so super early in DAOs. I mean, people just got to be careful. Everyone's favorite thing is like DAOs now, decentralized autonomous organization, and like it sounds cool. It sounds like it's just going to happen. There are tools for it, like there's Aragon, and there's other things that let you create DAOs. But part of the issue is DAOs are very big on like social consensus and just people being engaged with the governance platform. So it's kind of like you create this sort of organization that's going to do responsible for some task, but you need engagement. You need to have certain processes in place. The good thing is Wyoming just recently had something where they recognized DAO as an official legal entity in Wyoming. So I think that's very cool that they can do something like that. And I think we'll see how we iterate off of it. But like, for instance, Maker, which is one of the top DeFi protocols, it's literally called MakerDAO. So it's one of the best examples, and you get the MakerDAO token to be able to participate in their governance. So the DAOs are really for governance, which is to make decisions for some sort of purpose, right, of a project. I just think that we don't have a lot of the other supporting tools. You're just going to pretty much do it if you have some very, very dedicated people. If you just got some people that are just going to like half bake, half effort, half measure, it's not going to flow. It's not. It's good to experiment though. I tell everybody to experiment, but just I like to set expectations. Like we're just not there yet with
so I do artist management work in the NFT space, and I'm seeing like these artist DAOs popping up, and I'm just like in the back of my mind, I'm like, like, should I be doing a DAO? Like, but I'm not fully convinced yet. But I'm definitely paying attention.
Cool.
Cool. I think that's it for my questions.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I didn't have anything more to say about DAOs. I just keep hearing about them, and when I hear something all the time, just like real hot, but like NFTs are, but at least like we see a lot of stuff with NFTs. Like there's just a lot going on. DAOs are like a different. I just feel like they're going to be like the next sort of hype thing, and I just want people. I like to temper people's expectations and like let's be realistic about what you can do with them. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to like let other people try it first. And, I mean, you can get into I'm in this like not even like an official. I just sort of participate in this Rare Pizzas DAO, right, where we were like trying to get a bunch of people on May 22nd, Bitcoin Pizzas Day, to give them like free pizzas. So they collect the money for it, and there's a whole multi-sig, and so that's like a DAO, right? Like it actually be pretty cool. They actually accomplished an objective that was started back in like January, right? So that's cool. Like that's fun. But I don't think we're at a place where people are about to run their company as a DAO. Like I just don't.
Right.
Like if you want to look at an example of one that really did it very well, it's like Flamingo DAO. They actually are an NFT focused DAO. So they like, to me, it's more like an investment group. They probably be mad that I'm calling them that, but they've done a lot of the legal work for that.
So you do consulting work. If someone wants to work with you, how do they find you?
You can just go to alanhena.com, set up some time with me, or my Twitter is realalanhena, the handle. I would ask, please have a more well thought out idea. If it's something that you can Google, please Google it first. I don't want to be like a jerk, but I feel a lot of times I want to help people, and they call me and I'm like, you probably could have Googled that. Like, not even probably, I know you could have Googled it. And there's only so much time in a day, and I'd like to have that time available for people who have other sort of questions or business discussions, right? Versus something you probably could have just Googled yourself or gone to YouTube. YouTube is your friend. I tell people that all the time. Like YouTube is like a college. Like, there's so much information on YouTube. Just search for it. It is literally there. Yeah.
YouTube, Google, definitely lots of information. People DM us all the time saying, hey, how do I create NFTs? And I'm like, come on, just look it up.
Just look it up.
Type that exact same question.
How do I into Google or YouTube, and you're gonna have so many videos of people literally. And this is, to me, where you get it's always about how people get through the weeds of stuff. Like, if you can get cut down by a simple lack of being able to search, if you're not motivated enough to figure out how to mint an NFT at this point, I'm not saying that on Clubhouse we sit and help people all the time, but I'm there to do that. We talk you go here, but if you really want to do it, you can go to Google and YouTube and figure it out. There's too much stuff out there.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you do a lot of Clubhouse events. I know you're. Are you still moderating with NFT Tips?
Yeah. I was in there a lot today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's a great
NFT
group.
Tips. Yeah. Great group. Dope events.
Yeah.
And then you also have your own club.
Yeah, it's just called Digital Oil. I'm not really I don't do something every week. I just, as sort of ad hoc things come up, I'm like, all right, I'll do a club. I'm not trying to make money on it or turn it to this whole monetization thing or anything like that. So, but yeah, if you follow the Digital Oil Club, that'll be good.
Okay, and you focus on a lot the more detailed stuff around crypto.
Well, I've had artists on there. I don't know if you've heard of Latabo Huma. I had her. I had Black Sneakers on there. Yeah, so I interview artists, projects, DeFi, NFTs, cross chain. Yeah, just anything really.
Okay. All right, dope. Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me
today.
All right.
Yes. Thank you for coming, and have a good evening.
All right. Thank you.